Hi, folks. I hope you're well. And today I wanted to talk to you about something inspired by the sort of opening aspiration that we staked at the beginning of the meditation practices that we've been doing. So it goes, with boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord, and have joy and a world at peace. This comes from Mingyur Rinpoche's organization, Turgar, and Turgar has really wonderful programming, but that is the aspiration that they use at the beginning of practices. The instruction given to me was that it's perfectly okay if we want to take that as inspiration and make it our own. So if you feel inspired to, as you progress with your practice, if you want to keep using that and you want to tailor it a little bit more maybe to your aspirations, then you're welcome to do that. You have Mingyur Rinpoche's blessing. But I wanted to talk to you about it because it is a very important component of our practice in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, in particular under Chokyi Rinpoche, my teacher. I have been instructed that it's very important to implement 3 phases for practice. So there's the opening aspiration, there's the main practice itself, and then there is the closing or the dedication. So it's important to include all of those. It creates a capsule of sorts around the formal practice. It makes it complete and whole. And when we start with this motivation to cultivate compassion and wisdom and use that to benefit all beings, we're kicking things off, right, in a good way. And we are generating something, a motivation that we can call bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the synthesis of compassion and wisdom. And I wanted to read to you from Mingyur Rinpoche's book, The Joy of Living. He says that the gradual path I was taught regarding the development of compassion toward others consists of 3 levels, each to be practiced for several months, similar to the way students learn basic math skills before moving on to higher applications. Level 1 involved learning how to develop a kind or compassionate attitude toward yourself and other beings close to you. So that's where we start. Level 2 focused on developing immeasurable loving kindness and compassion toward all beings. So then it's beginning to extend it out beyond ourselves, beyond those closest to us, and out to all beings. And the thing that's really important about this is that it's this universal all. It doesn't matter if you like them or not, if they've harmed you or not. It is a completely impartial development of compassion toward all. And that can be really challenging, so there can be a lot to work through with that. So level 2 is a big one. And then level 3 is massive. This involves cultivating bodhicitta. So what is bodhicitta? Like, a little bit more about that, this synthesis of awakening through wisdom and compassion. There are actually 2 types or levels of bodhicitta, absolute and relative. Absolute bodhicitta is spontaneous recognition that all sentient beings, regardless of how they act or appear, are already completely enlightened. It usually takes a good deal of practice to attain this level of spontaneous recognition. And by good deal of practice, he means lifetimes. This is the highest aspiration of the bodhisattva, to develop this awakening of absolute bodhicitta, this spontaneous awareness and recognition that all sentient beings are Buddhas, basically. And to be able to engage in and see the world that way. Relative bodhicitta, which is more in line with where we may be, most likely, involves the cultivation of the desire for all sentient beings to be completely free of suffering through recognizing their true nature and taking the actions to accomplish that desire. So that relative level of bodhicitta then involves cultivating a great deal of compassion. Compassion is the bedrock of this for us in this life. And then that brings me to want to share with you something that I read in Tricycle Magazine, the most recent issue. I came across this when Richard and I were driving back and forth. Well, when we were driving back from South Carolina yesterday. And I really like this. So I was inspired to kind of jump on this and expand a little bit. So that's where the rest of this came from. But this is, it's called What Waits in the Dark. It's just a very short writing by a woman named Deborah Eden Tall, who's a Zen meditation teacher. And she writes, compassion does not exist outside of us. Because everything comes from within us. Yeah? So it doesn't exist outside of us. It's just right here within you. It's your core. It's not a concept we can access through rational thought or philosophizing. It's an innate force within each and every one of us. And I love that statement because it reminds you that you don't have to try. When you feel this rush of compassion come up within you, when you're presented with a situation that elicits that reaction, it's so apparent that it's there within you and it's just coming forth. It's this innate force within each and every one of us. It is unwavering love and protection for life, or the courage of our shared heart. The courage of our shared heart. When we turn toward rather than away from that which we perceive as dark, difficult, or absent of light, then our compassion is unlocked. When we turn toward it, not away. Compassion is found in being willing to venture beyond our comfort zones and walk through the portals of discomfort, pain, and vulnerability for ourselves or another. And I think one of the interesting things about that, one of the great things about that is that our practice is all about that, about working with and through beyond our general comfort zone, expanding that and becoming more comfortable in things that used to be uncomfortable, from physical to mental to emotional, you name it, runs the gamut. And our practice from the asana to the seated meditation, all of it can really help us in working through and expanding that zone. And in doing so, it makes us more capable of being more in touch and just allowing that innate compassion within us to come forward. And this led me to want to share with you something that from this past summer in the course that I did on the 37 practices of a bodhisattva. There were parts of it that I found very challenging, and some of that revolves around this. And my teacher said that motivation is very important. right? So we've been talking about that. We're cultivating the motivation, the bodhicitta, aspiration. And he went in to talk about how, like, if someone does something that appears wrong to us, but their motivation is good or positive, then the action that they take is not necessarily negative. And he talked about 4 things that no one likes, right? Like, none of us like loss, suffering, blame, and denigration. Loss, suffering, blame, denigration. But that whenever they happen, we should take them onto the path. So this is related to some of what we've talked about in the course. Like, you don't just meditate when things are good, and you don't only meditate on the good things. Like, you're meditating and working with whatever is coming up, the good, bad, the ugly. So take them onto the path. So loss, take loss onto the path. He said, whether it's material or immaterial, all can be lost by someone taking them or presenting obstacles to them. So we lose something, presents an obstacle, and we have a reaction. And he said, do not get angry, take it as it comes, and cultivate patience. It's like, okay, all right, I think I can do that. But that, for me, that's been one that I've worked with a lot over the years. It's like not just reacting in anger or frustration, and trying to see that come up and be able to work with it. Okay, so then the next thing is suffering. So none of us like suffering. So say someone causes us pain. He says, do not get angry, cultivate compassion. Like, try and see where it is that they might be where their suffering might be causing them to react that way. And maybe you can channel your anger to compassion. And then blame and disgrace. We don't like these things. So he said, if someone speaks openly or even behind our back badly about us, avoid retaliation, bring loving kindness, and speak well of them. Not only bring loving kindness, but speak well of them. So that's bringing this disgrace onto the path. Even if someone blasts negative criticisms, insults publicly at us, don't respond with the same. Generate loving kindness and wish them joy and happiness in this and future lives. Take it onto the path. And then denigration. He pointed out that we don't often see our own faults. So we can see this as useful, showing us, as a spiritual friend would, of our shortcomings. So if someone does this publicly and shames or embarrasses us, but if they're being truthful, then we take that up and we learn from it. Do better going forward. Then he went on to say, though, however, if it is slanderous, we still treat it as a spiritual friend, like that this is giving us something we can learn from. He pointed out that the main work of spiritual teachers is to reveal our hidden faults so that we can apply an antidote. So when someone does this, we should step back and ask and investigate, why have they done this? What do I need to work on? And then be grateful for them. So Obviously, that's challenging to put that into action, but I wanted to share it with you because I think that's one of the radical acts, the radical sides of the practice. It's not normal in our society to react this way. Others might see it as weak, and or encourage us to act otherwise. But if we can implement this, at least on some level, some of the time, we may find great learning, peace, strength come from that. And all of this hinges on our meditation practice. Being able to stabilize our mind is absolutely essential to have any hope of dealing with these negative emotions that come up that might otherwise cause us to retaliate and or take actions that further the cycle of negativity. So, I hope this was useful, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thanks.